50 years ago, on May 23rd, 1970, a dedication ceremony was held to formally mark the opening of a brand new Pennsylvania State Park named Moraine for the local glacial activity about 20,000 years ago. Welcome to part one of creating Moraine State Park. This three-part series tells the story behind the park. My name is Polly Shaw. This video is drawn from my book, Moraine State Park, by Arcadia Publishing, and from my popular park programs. This 50-year-old photo shows the immediate popularity of the park that summer. Today, over 2 million boaters, hikers, bikers, swimmers, and nature enthusiasts annually visit the 16,725-acre park, the third largest state park in Pennsylvania. Another 50-year-old view shows repurposed land that was reclaimed from prior coal mining and oil well damage. Today, the park is recognized as an outstanding example of environmental engineering achievement. Lake Arthur is about 8 miles long, covering 3,225 acres and creating 42 miles of shoreline. Plenty of room for an angler to have a favorite spot. And for the successful reintroduction of the osprey, who now call the park home. Moraine State Park is one of 121 Pennsylvania state parks and is located wholly within Butler County, between Butler to the east and Newcastle to the west. I-79, US 422, PA 8, and PA 528 give access to the park. 528 generally follows the old Venango Path used by George Washington and Christopher Gist on their 1753 mission to Fort LaBeouf. They passed through twice on the trek north toward Erie and the return south to Virginia on that mission. A look at the park map reveals the shape of the man-made lake. Muddy Creek enters from the east on the upper of the three arms of the lake to the right on the map. The first two main tributaries are Swamp Run in the middle and Shannon Run. In the center, along the south shore, is Big Run, and to the west, Bear Run. These five main streams, along with over 75 intermittent creeks, fill the massive lake. The water exits through the dam to the upper left on the map, as Muddy Creek flows west to the Slippery Rock Creek, the Connequanesting Creek, the Beaver River, the Ohio River, the Mississippi River, and eventually to the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. Let's look at the oil field on this 3MJC map. The satellite view shows the center part of the lake with Big Run highlighted in the green box. This is the center of the Muddy Creek oil field, discovered in 1890 on the Dan Shaner Farm, 2 miles north of Prospect. This close-up reveals green dots that represent the oil wells. In creating the park, 422 oil and gas wells had to be located and sealed. Notice that some of the green dots are in the water, but remember that at the time of the oil production, there was no lake. The area wasn't flooded until 1969. The Marshall Bar oil well number 19 site was left in place for demonstration, while the rest of the oil field debris was dismantled and cleared away in preparing the park. This site had pumping jacks all powered by this Bessemer engine. This natural gas engine could handle more than a dozen pumping jacks. The plate certifies that this engine was built in Grove City, Pennsylvania. The patent, May 30th, 1899. Here's the restored engine in operation. Notice the small drive wheel to the left. There's a wide belt on that wheel that transfers power to the next room. We see that wide drive belt coming in from the gas engine. There are rods attached to the elliptical moving gear. These rods pass out through the wall openings and are connected to the pumping jacks. Because the gears are not centered, they have the effect of moving these rods back and forth, turning a circular motion into a back and forth motion. The tripods support the back and forth moving rods that deliver the power to the wooden pumping jacks. You might have been expecting to see an oil derrick. That device is used to drill the oil well, but once the oil is tapped, a derrick is removed to be installed elsewhere, and this pumping jack does the job. Early on, the oil was stored in barrels and delivered by horse-drawn wagons, and then pipes were installed to a central pumping station where Whippoorwill Hill Road crossed Big Run. That site today is underwater near Pleasant Valley Beach. This area was also known for bituminous coal, found in 7 coal beds. First it was deep mined and later strip mined. This is an old topographical map. The blue arrow shows the oil pumping station that we just mentioned. This map was created long before the lake was filled, but it's not hard to see the shape of today's Lake Arthur, which appears as white. Contour lines are drawn to connect areas of same elevation, but the Great Muddy Creek Plain is of similar elevation, so no contour lines, making it white. Original Muddy Creek meanders across the plain, moving east to west. The areas ringed in black are coal mines. The numbers refer to specific coal company claims. This MapQuest satellite image shows the upper Muddy Creek arm of Lake Arthur. The red loop shows the location of the village of Maine at the intersection of Barkley and Burton Roads, which was abandoned in the 1930s. Barkley Road dead ends at the Burton Road launch. This spot has the stone pier from the old bridge that crossed Muddy Creek. The coal town known as Maine was actually a U.S. steel town and was the largest coal operation in the Muddy Creek Basin. There are some stone remains here of the mine manager's house and the assistant manager's house next door. Near the intersection is the site of the town's general store. The front foundation wall and some supporting stone piers remain from that store. The yellow line highlights the entrance to the deep mine at Maine, one of 58 in the Muddy Creek Basin. Low cars are used to haul out the spoils, meaning the rock and the dirt removed to access the coal. Then the empty cars return to the mine to haul out the coal. Originally, mules were used to haul the cars, and the village included a stable for the animals. Later, electric engines were used. This historic photo from Wayne Coal shows the coal tipple at Maine. Notice that there is a full-size hopper car under the tipple being loaded. Each coal mine in the Muddy Creek Basin had a siding from the tracks to the mine and an engine to move the coal cars around on the coal siding. So with all the coal available, there was money to be made in getting that coal to the hungry steel mills in the most efficient way possible, and that meant the railroad. The Bessemer and Lake Erie Railroad was established in 1897, running north-south. A few years later, in 1903, Emmett Queen and his brothers founded an east-west railroad that intersected with the B&LE at Queen Junction, due east of today's park. Their original section ran east toward Armstrong County. In 1906, they extended the line west to Newcastle, running right through the Muddy Creek Basin. Their full line was 49 miles long. Here, passenger cars are attached to engine number 4. Besides hauling coal to blast furnaces in Newcastle and Pittsburgh, the railroad provided great travel access for residents. Here is a combo passenger and baggage car pulled by engine number 5. Portersville Station was the largest along the line, with the agent's office, a freight room, and a passenger waiting room. This modern map is courtesy Jeff Bales of Lawrence County Memoirs. It helps us to relate the historic railroad to known areas today. The railroad right-of-way passes through the modern lake, with stops in Isle, Neely, Barbers, and Portersville. It continues west to Payne, Grant City, Rose Point, Princeton, and on toward Newcastle. The Western Allegheny Railroad closed west of Queen Junction in 1939. The steel rails and the Rose Point Bridge were removed in 1942 for the war effort. Some right-of-way sites can still be seen today on the ground. Snow highlights this right-of-way on the west end of the park near the 422 ramp to North Shore. Another way to locate them is using satellite Google Maps to visually connect the old right-of-way remaining segments. The houses on the hillside are the village of Isle, located where the 528 bridge crosses Lake Arthur. It had perhaps 10 to 14 homes. Watson's store was the center of village life in Isle. The Western Allegheny Railroad ran beside the store. After the railroad ceased service in 1939, Watson sold the business and the store became Robinson's. Shannon Run arises on the Election House and Unionville Road area and flows into Muddy Creek near the Mount Zion Baptist Church across the creek from Isle. There was a dam on Shannon Run that created this small lake. It was stocked and memberships were sold for fishing rights. Beside the presence of oil and coal resources, it's vital to remember the people who lived in the Muddy Creek Basin. 4 one-room schools operated within today's park boundary. The orange arrow points to Sand Hill School. The blue arrow is Pleasant Valley School. The green arrow is Bunker Hill School. And the black arrow indicates Island Independent School. Sand Hill School became a private residence. The intention for Bunker Hill School was to create a museum, but vandals set it on fire in the mid-80s. Island Independent was sold and moved to another location for private use. This picture shows Pleasant Valley School. The Moraine Park office sits on this site today. The cars to the left in the parking area would be about the site of the Pleasant Valley School. The family name McDaniel is remembered in the naming of the McDaniel launch. Marine Preservation Fund docks their boat, Nautical Nature, in a cove behind the Owlet gift shop at McDaniel's. The road to McDaniel also gives access to the north end of the dam that impounds Muddy Creek. This is the McDaniel farm. The road to the right is today's road to McDaniel Launch. The road crossing at the top is 422. The wooden area between housed Shawwood Park. This area is not underwater today since it is downstream of the dam. Muddy Creek flowed through Shawwood Park crossed by this wooden bridge that connected the picnic area to the amusement area. If you have hiked the North Country Trail in the past 10 years, then you most likely crossed Muddy Creek using an aluminum trail bridge, which crossed very close to the location of the old wooden Shawwood Park Bridge. Here's the carousel, near the banks of Muddy Creek in the foreground. There were Kittyland rides too, and a roller skating rink, a dance hall, and a ball field. A midway nearby had games and food. Shawwood Park was popular for family outings and company picnics. It closed before any Moraine State Park development. Before the park, this land used to be farmland, a lot of wetlands, and it contained gas and oil drilling fields and many coal deposits. There were some small villages to support the local industries and local residents. Notice how level the surrounding land is, suggesting that ancient glacial lake. But how could anyone look at the land as it was and envision the remarkable transition to Moraine State Park? It was the combined work of many, but a driving force behind the change was Dr. Frank Preston, seen here on the right, walking across the Muddy Creek Basin with Carl Leathers beside him and two other men. Yes, this land today is underwater. Please continue the story with part 2 of creating Moraine State Park. We'll take a look at Dr. Frank Preston and Edmund Watts Arthur and others behind the movement and the formation of the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy. In part 3, we'll move to the actual construction of the dam, the highway bridges, the park facilities, and the dedication. My book, Moraine State Park, is available locally at Cranberry Township Target, the Newcastle Giant Eagle on Butler Road, the Owlet Gift Shop, the Jennings Environmental Education Center Gift Shop, Barnes & Noble in Cranberry Township, and online at Amazon and Arcadia Publishing. I present many programs to local historical societies, nature clubs, Rotary clubs, libraries, senior groups, family reunions, church groups, and others. Contact me through my Facebook page. Thanks. See you soon with part 2 of the story of creating Moraine State Park.